but I mean, yeah. Because we're just going to do like a bullshit session from once I get everybody hooked up. Tell me when you're ready. Oh. No. I guess for some reason, no. Oh, there I go. You didn't even tell me to start the jingle palette.
I started it.
Oh. No, I wasn't hearing anything. That's why I'm sitting here not saying anything, because for some reason my headphones are going, or my earbuds are not reading it. So yeah, I wasn't even hearing nothing on there. So that's why I was sitting there like a bump on a log. We're on IE Newswire on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, I think. Maybe. Possibly. Jesse says yes. On that, we'll be joining KMET as we usually do at 5:30 every day. And we'll have Susan Shelley on in a bit. Assemblymember Kevin Kiley will be on to update us on the Gavin Newsom stuff and recalls and all that noise going on all across the board. It's been one heck of a day. And at least for that. I mean, yeah, well, really for what was going on. I mean, yesterday was just off the charts with everything going on. But we have a follow-up story on the UTLA parents fiasco with Cicely Myert Cruz, the president of the UTLA. And now it's finally getting exposed what is really going on. And I got to applaud this teacher. She's actually a college professor, I think. She has a 7th grader in Los Angeles Unified School District. So the LA Times, obviously, as a newspaper, has been publishing what's been going on, with the whole thing, COVID, schools closing, yada, yada, yada. Well, we ran the video yesterday of Cicely Myert Cruz, who was blaming it on white racist people of, white privilege or Middle Eastern background are pushing the school opening, and the kids, and the minority parents don't want to go back to school, and yada, yada, yada. And it's racist and all this other stuff. So the LA Times was doing some digging and made some public records requests. And Bill Malushian, the great investigative reporting at Fox 11, got a hold of what was going on. So we're going to run this video of Fox 11, and you won't believe it.
Child back in school is outraged tonight after she says the teachers union tried to collect racial opposition research on her. Bill Malushian reports.
I'm a mom and I'm an educator, and I want our kids to come back to school.
Dr. Miriam Kudrat has a 7th grader enrolled in LAUSD. For months, she's advocated for children to return to in-person schooling and has given media interviews criticizing UTLA for refusing to come back.
Their conclusion is, if you want schools to be reopened right now, then that means that you're racist against African Americans and Latinos.
Kudrat, a woman of Afghanistani descent, tells me she was stunned when she recently got this email from a UTLA researcher claiming to be working on a research project on who speaks about LAUSD issues in the LA Times and that he's analyzing race and class. The researcher notes Kudrat has been quoted twice in 8 months by the LA Times, says he believes her last name is a common Iranian name, then asks how she racially self-identifies.
I feel very targeted. I think that they're very clearly case building. They're trying to collect data on folks who have been quoted, like me, in the Los Angeles Times. And they're trying to say that if you are in favor of the kids coming back to school, you're a racist.
Kudrat points to this January Facebook post from UTLA President Cecily Mayart Cruz, where she claims UTLA members have been stalked on social media by wealthy white and Middle Eastern parents in regard to opening schools. And she believes UTLA was conducting racial opposition research against her.
To see them now basically turning this way is frankly scary, the way they're taking education towards pinning white and Middle Eastern against black and brown.
We reached out to UTLA to ask what was going on with this email. They tell us it was part of a report they were putting together on parents who spoke to the LA Times based on geography and class, telling us in part, the email in question is from a UTLA researcher who is attempting to ascertain the race of individuals quoted in order to assess whether or not that is a factor we could evaluate. This outreach by the researcher was not authorized, and nothing from that outreach is contained in the report. We understand this type of email could be taken out of context.
Anybody who spends 30 seconds reading that email would see that it is very clear, pointed racism. They are racial profiling. If this was sent out to somebody who was African American or Latino, they'd have a lawsuit on their hands.
And UTLA tells us they did reach out to Dr. Kudrat to apologize for what they're calling a misunderstanding. And they say they're perplexed that this has turned into such a big issue. Bill Malugin, Fox 11 News.
So, Carlos Lopez, the real racists are Cicely Meyer Tyson. And the researchers and opposition research that's going on across the board in this stuff. As the teacher who got the email asking about her race, because she's been quoted in the newspapers, as she said, anybody that runs the analysis on this come up with the argument that they're not profiling, that they're not stirring up racism at UTLA. And I will submit to you, if you dig deep enough or you run the emails or you actually, maybe you talk to some people, maybe off the record, this goes on far across not only California, but this nation. Teachers are using their money to do opposition research on parents along racial lines. They've made the statement. We've run the clips. Bill Malushin's done it. We've picked them off of UTLA's website of the accusations of racism, whenever you hear somebody say racist or use that word, I'm going to submit to you that's the racist. This is not Roy or somebody. This is a teacher who has a kid in UTLA and is getting and uncovered the emails of that. Made it public. Let me say uncovered it. Made it public. The emails that she's getting from United Teachers of Los Angeles. This is flat. What's got to stop? Because if it doesn't, we're all in a big heap of trouble. This is what you want to talk about, critical race theory? Nicola Hannah-Jones, give me number 4, please. Creator of the 1619 Project to give the Hayes Enterprise Lecture. 1619 Project is supposed to be about, that's about the reparations and the, slavery and how evil America is and this whole enchilada. And the long-time 100-year, Press Enterprise, Daily Enterprise, has been around for eons, decades, 100 years plus probably in the Riverside Inland Empire, Riverside, San Bernardino County area. And they're putting this type of person with that and the white privilege and the white fragility and all this other stuff going on. It's absolutely incredulous of what we're doing here. We're infiltrating our schools. We're absolutely we have an educational crisis in here. And I'm even more even agreeing to the people. We need to stop and dismantle our school system, I think, and just rebuild it from the ground up. Because what's going on down in UTLA is getting ridiculous of going on. I want to bring her on because we only got about 10 minutes or so in this segment. Want to get her on. She's the editorial writer of the Press Enterprise, San Bernardino Sun, Inland Daily Bulletin, and Redlands Daily Facts. Along that, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley. Welcome to the IE Newswire with Roy.
Well, thank you, Roy. Wonderful to be with you.
I don't know if you've been following this whole UTLA thing and Cicely Myert Cruz.
Yeah,
and then
I have been.
The newest one. But besides all, and we've ran the clips of her, the racist stuff they've been posting, and they were trying to hide it from their website to the Facebook and trying to duck us. But this latest college professor that has a kid in UTLA that was sent asking about her ethnicity of that because she's been quoted in major newspapers around, and when they've been throwing around the accusations of, it's the parents of white and Middle Eastern people that are driving the opening of the schools, and the other people don't want it. The people of color, whatever that's supposed to mean, do not want to send their kids back to school, and yada yada. And we can't open in safety, yada yada. I mean, this is blowing. If there's one good thing about the social media tech information era, it's now starting to expose what I believe and what I have seen behind the scenes for many decades. Now you're seeing the emails and stuff and communications that have been going on, I've seen for a long time, Susan Shelley.
Well, I think this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And the reason I think it's so funny, and not that it isn't serious, because of course it is. The reason it's so funny is because UTLA has research to do this sort of back channel, probably illegal, intimidating opposition research on parents who give quotations to reporters saying we want our kids back in school, so they could quietly make the case that the only people who want kids back in school are white, wealthy, whatever other category they want. Well, they gave the task to this researcher, and the researcher wasn't sure how to do the job correctly, so the researcher reached out with an email to this parent. I don't know where they got the contact info, maybe just Facebook or Twitter, and asked this parent, well, I want to be sure I've got this right. What race are you? How do you self-identify? It seems like it's Iranian, but I want to be sure that I've got that right. And then this parent shared that everywhere and complained about it. Well, I just thought, so the only right answer for this is to quote from the great Marx Brothers movie Duck Soup and say, answer the question, tell them you're Freedonian, and you self-identify as a Marx brother. And leave it at that. And honestly, I think we should all start answering these race questions no matter who asks us, whether it's a job application or the census or an application to do business with a city or state. We should all say that I'm Freedonian and my race is Marx brother. And just wait for them to reach back and say, I don't think you're a Marx brother, and say, I self-identify as a Marx brother. You are intruding on my space. Whatever the correct phrase is for oppression this week. We can't take this so seriously. It is reaching the left absurdity.
It is, and I want to follow it up because we got the Gavin Newsom recall now, and I mean, if there isn't anybody that needs to be recalled worse than Gavin Newsom, it's George Gascon, the district attorney of L.A. County, of that. Yeah. And I went down to the county of Riverside in my little 3-minute speech, and I said, this is the last bastion of power that the people have on that, and we really don't like to use it. It takes a lot of effort, but we will if we have to. And that's kind of your column this week. It says Los Angeles County's leaders are failing them. It's time to hold them accountable, Susan Shelley.
Well, it absolutely is. Now, that column was about the restaurant decision. L.A. County, without any evidence at all, banned restaurant dining, outdoor restaurant dining, just before Thanksgiving. And 2 of the county supervisors were pretty upset about it, and they introduced a motion saying we're going to block this action by the public health director. And they called her, Barbara Farrar, not a doctor, Barbara Farrar, they called her and her people before the board, and they said, where is the evidence? Show us the evidence that outdoor dining has contributed at all anywhere to COVID-19 spread. And there was no evidence. Okay? So the motion was voted 3-2 to defeat it and allow this ban on outdoor dining to go through. And that was after Supervisor Sheila Kuehl said, it's just so dangerous. It's too dangerous to allow it to continue. That same evening, Sheila Kuehl went to a restaurant and had dinner outdoors near her house at her favorite Italian bistro. And that blew up all over social media, as you were saying. So nonetheless, the state said, well, we're going to ban outdoor dining, so it doesn't matter that L.A. County does or doesn't. And the county, the restaurant owners sued anyway, and they said, we have to stop the county from just randomly shutting us down for no reason on no evidence. The lower court agreed with the restaurant owners, and the county appealed, and the decision just came down this week. Here's what the appeals court said. We're going to defer to Barbara Farrar because we just feel that we shouldn't second-guess the public health officials. So here you have a situation where the people in office, Gavin Newsom and Sheila Kuehl, who are being briefed on the science, are eating in restaurants while they're telling other people it's dangerous. So they know it's not dangerous. They know it's not because they're doing it. And you have this situation where you ask for the evidence and there is no evidence, and they shut down the restaurants anyway. And the court said, that's fine. So when you have something like that going on, the courts are failing us. And we could go through many other cases where the courts have failed to uphold the Constitution and protect people's rights, even though that's their job. They are failing us. And that is why it's good in California that we have the initiative, the referendum, and the recall to hold people accountable. Because the people are sovereign in our system of government. This is government by consent of the governed. And if the governed do not consent, then it's tyranny. And that's what we're experiencing here. People's rights are being just mowed down without any process, without any reason, without any evidence, just because the government feels like it. And this has to stop. We can't be in a permanent emergency where no one has any rights, and businesses can be randomly shut down with no warning whenever a public health official feels like, oh, it's St. Patrick's Day, I'm a little worried, I'm shutting everybody down. No. We have to put a stop to this. And if we have to recall every elected official in the state of California, then that's what we have to do. One at a time, we'll just take them out.
Exactly. I mean, and that's what it's come down to. I mean, you just can't. After almost, we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of Gavin Newsom's first lockdown of a state in that. And almost a year later, and Gavin Newsom will play the clips later of his press conference today saying, deriding Florida, now Texas and Mississippi and South Dakota for opening or been opening up or opening up and saying, we can't do this, yada, yada, yada. I mean, they have totally hijacked the term safety, kind of like everybody gets, I'm equating it to like everybody gets a trophy where it means nothing. The word safety now is getting to the point of where it means nothing because they're using it for every excuse in the book. Not, there's an imminent danger if you do something and it's gonna cause a great amount of harm. It was a term that you use sparingly, but when you heard it, you used to pay attention. Now it's like you're hearing it all the time. They're using it for excuse. I mean, and this gets back to your point of your column of that, I think, is, we just got to get rid of this madness. We got to clean it out of the schools, our government, everything.
Yes, we do, and we will. Things do change. They change after people get really angry, and I think when you see practically 2 million signatures to recall the governor, that's a sign that people are really angry, and rightly so. This has been unacceptable, what's been going on in this state. And, California has sort of a political history of preening before the rest of the country and saying we're so much better. And some of these policies that they go around telling the world are so much better are actually so much worse. Like, for instance, some of the climate policies, which don't accomplish anything, but they cost a lot of money. And so the government says, well, we know that it doesn't accomplish anything, but we must show leadership because California always shows leadership. And we showed leadership on the COVID-19 pandemic by being the very first state to order a lockdown, even though there is no evidence that lockdowns work. And this is a very old story from previous pandemics. There is no evidence that lockdowns work. And there's lots of evidence that lockdowns cause horrific damage. And that's what we are experiencing, horrific damage to businesses, to school children, to the mental health of everyone in this state. There's so much fear. I don't know how long it will take for people to recover from the fear that they have of going out, of being with other people, being in public places, of somebody sneezing. I mean, this is going to damage people for the rest of their lives. And for what? So that California could show leadership and Gavin Newsom could go on television and be the first governor to lock down. Well, you know what? That's not working out so well because the governor of Florida looks pretty good. The governor of South Dakota looks pretty good. They didn't have this mass death that was predicted by the media when they refused to go along with these lockdowns. They had a good outcome. And we are having a horrible outcome. We don't have good numbers on anything. And the economic damage that has happened to this state is, for some people, irreparable. Some people have lost everything, and they'll never recover economically from this experience. And it was so unnecessary.
No, we'll never recover if we got Gavin Newsom and the mortician Daly up there saying, and Fauci and whomever, scaring half the people half to death about, a year later and we're still doing this. I mean, you would have thought this was the Spanish flu of 1918 that killed 75 million people, not whatever's going on, whatever number you want to get. It isn't even anywhere near what it is. And most people, I'm going to say majority of the people in California now are voting with their feet, their cars, and everything else. You see most people returning back to normal activities on top of that. And I think that's one reason, but notwithstanding all the gaffes and softballs that Gavin Newsom's thrown at us to get him recalled. But I think, it's starting to turn a majority of people now are getting to the point of saying, we do have to do something. This teacher in L.A. flipped the email out there. You wouldn't have seen this, I wouldn't say 5 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. This just flat didn't happen. And hopefully, I don't know what you think, but I'm seeing a lot of the tides turning on a lot of this.
Well, I think so. And one of the things that you have to remember is that we're not dealing here in our government with rocket scientists. For example, Governor Newsom said today, that because Texas and 3 other states have ended their mask mandate, he is announcing today that Californians should wear 2 masks. Now, this is not satire. This actually happened. This is the quote. I'm reading it right out of the Sacramento Bee. We are encouraging people basically to double down on mask wearing, particularly in light of all what I would argue is bad information coming from at least 4 states in this country. In other words, Texas isn't going to wear masks, so we have to wear 2 masks. This is crazy. This is satire. This is craziness. And it can't continue. And even people who want to think that this is all wise and necessary and they want to go along with it, at some point, reality pokes its head through the fog and says, it isn't really so. There's nothing to defend the idea that because Texas stopped wearing masks, Californians should wear 2 masks. And that's what the governor said today. Just insane.
It is. I mean, it should be satire. The sad thing that it wasn't satire. And just from watching the clips of watching that live, it's even getting hard to believe with the mannerisms and facial expressions. I really don't even think Gavin Newsom believes what he's saying, but he's dug himself such a hole in this thing now that he can't, at least he isn't willing to back up or admit what's going on. We got about 30 seconds left. Wrap it up and tell them how they should join Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association.
Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, the most influential taxpayer advocacy group in California, fighting for you and for your family and for your wallet. Join HJTA. Go to hjta.org, hjta.org. Sign up for the free email alerts. Join, be a member for just $15 a year, and help to strengthen the voice of taxpayers in California. This is the organization that's going to lead us out of the wilderness in this state. This is the organization that knows the right answers for California policy, and we need your help to make that happen. So go to hjta.org and join the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association.
Thank you, Susan Shelley. We'll do it again next week.
Thank you, Roy. Take care.
That was a great Susan Shelley on that with all that. And I couldn't agree with her more of what's going on. And I do wish, I really wish that what Gavin Newsom was saying was satire, but it's not. I mean, he's actually saying this stuff. And we'll run us some of those clips live of that. We'll have coming up as we join KMT. We'll have Assemblymember Kevin Kiley to give us the update on the recall effort. And stay tuned with us. Hopefully, after 6 o'clock, we're going to have a roundtable discussion with Kenny White and Dwayne and we can't do that. Yes. Well, I think we caught your attention a little bit when the double mask on your ears.
1 minute.
We're gonna have to. You know what we should do? We should get a big bonfire going, and just just burn every frickin' just throw masks in it for hours. Get ones with Gavin Newsom on them.
I'm okay with masks. The fact that people just throwing them around everywhere
30 seconds.
is making so much more trash.
Yes, it is on that. It's absolutely incredible. You know, you should light up number 4 when you're talking, so so they can actually hear you. Yes, they do.
All right, here we go, guys. 10 seconds. MSupplyKing.com.
OEM Supply King. We got it!
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
Following is a pre-recorded program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMT, its management, employees, or affiliates.
funky slide guitar music that I could actually hear this time. It comes on every Monday through Friday at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire on the aforementioned AM band. We had Susan Shelley on earlier on that. We had on the Bill Malusian report where the LA teacher released the email she got from UTLA researcher asking about her race because she'd been quoted in the LA Times about wanting her 7-year-old, which is a student in UTLA, wanting to go back to class. And in the context of the whole racism from UTLA president Cicely Myert Cruz, on that, of specifically calling Middle Eastern and white parents of privilege pushing which you had people of color, which supposedly did not want their kids going back to school, saying that is not the case. In fact, they're going to be holding a rally, I think in South Central LA, Saturday, actually demanding that their kids go back to school. We want our kids back to school more than the group that's being demonized. This is what we're up against. And one thing, I'm starting to see the tide turning with the recall effort of Gavin Newsom. With more people getting engaged, going out there and getting into signatures, showing up at their local, whatever, city council, school board meetings, asking these questions, not taking it for granted. Just because they say something like the whole thing with Gavin Newsom, we're going to do double masks. On top of that, it's giving me hope that we're finally fed up. We're not going to take it anymore. And as we had Susan Shelley's column of that, if this doesn't stop, we'll just recall every official in California. As a soon-to-be recall effort of Gavin Newsom, then then it's just going to have to go down the line. We're going to have to take matters into our own hands and go out there and recall every stinking one of them to get this thing straightened out, because we cannot endure another year of this madness. I mean, we're coming up. We would have thought of that almost a year ago. We wouldn't even. This wasn't even coming into the radar screen 1 year ago today. We were just hearing about COVID-19 or coronavirus. It got loose in China. Trump had put the China travel ban on. Whether it's in personal conversations or an email or threats or intimidation or whatever, this stuff has check. It's blatantly obvious that Gavin Newsom is going on a full, all-out assault on control on this. We're going to play the clip here of Gavin Newsom, which Susan Shelley was talking about, where he said where he's criticizing the Texas governors, and there's going to be no end in sight.
Is that it? Well, moreover, one more question. This is where you get in trouble. It's always the last question.
And I'm troubled, Governor. There's a Reuters report out today quoting Chris Murray at the University of Washington saying the South African variant can, quote, dampen the effect of the vaccine. It could also, quote, evade natural immunity in people previously infected. Dr. Fauci said, even after vaccination, quote, I still would want to wear a mask if there was another variant out there. Hearing that, does that give you more concern about reopening the state?
Well, it's one of the reasons we're doubling down on mask wearing and updating our guidelines as we're doing today. And I want to just be crystal clear about that if I wasn't earlier. we will be doubling down on mask wearing, not arguing to follow the example of Texas and other states that I think are making a terrible mistake. And again, forgive me, but the positivity rate in California is 2.1%. In Texas, it's 5 times California. It's 4 times in Florida and some of these states, you know.
There you heard it. Doubling down. Huh? Mine's on. Oh, okay. I don't know why that was. No, there you go. Doubling down on double masks. There you heard it. Saying, as he said, totally reckless in a tweet, castigating the governors, Florida and South Dakota, which South Dakota never put a mask mandate in. Florida did for a little bit and then rescinded it. Yet, Texas and Mississippi just said, no bueno, out, no mask, everything's open, we're done. Gavin Newsom, 2 masks. That when the real world evidence shows that actually Florida is slightly better in the statistics of death rates, positive cases, on and on and on. So there is no difference in coronavirus spread. The difference is the damage that Gavin Newsom has done to the 40 million people of California economically, to the kids in their school system, to driving people absolutely nuts to the point of suicides, on down to teenagers who can't take it anymore. Yet we still sit here each and every day having to take that, and Gavin Newsom wonders why there's 1.9 and counting signatures to recall his rear end. There is no possible way that this stuff will happen. Flip up number 4, please. If we allow the government to break the law because of an emergency, they will always create an emergency to break the law. You cannot sum up, especially California and New York, with that lying piece of trash, Andrew Cuomo. If nothing else goes on, we can see, as they say, no matter where we're at, the goalpost always moves. Well, now it's, Texas and Mississippi joined North Dakota and Florida in opening up. Well, now California has to wear 2 masks. How does that make any sense, you goofball Newsom? Explain that. He was right. The last question always gets you. And that's all you really needed to know about the whole deal. Because he's backing up on the whole thing on that. That's where he was in Stockton today of that and touting we got to get more vaccines in the areas because areas of underprivileged and Hispanics are not getting the vaccine or playing right into the Cicely Myert Cruz narrative because he's trying to walk a tightrope. He took the money of the teachers unions to put him in office, and now He's sitting there going, oh crap, the natives are restless. They're pissed off. Now is pissed off because they don't want to go back to work. They're running around with all using every excuse in the book, down to racial profiling. Now you explain to me how that letter from the researcher to the college professor or teacher asking her ethnicity because she'd been quoted in the LA Times of wanting to open up the schools, which they don't want to do. Is not the ultimate in racial profiling. We have to call this stuff as it is. Because if we don't, even if our government officials, as Governor Greg Abbott in Texas did, and the governor of Mississippi did, dropping the mask mandate, opening up their states 100%. This is what's happening in Texas. Give me number 4, please. Target, Costco, among big retailers keeping mask mandate in Texas, is a Fox 8 report. In the wake of the Texas Governor Greg Abbott's decision to do away with coronavirus restrictions, major retailers, restaurants, and even NBA teams are declining to follow his lead when it comes to the mask requirements. The Republican governor's announcement Tuesday rejects guidance from federal health officials who are imploring states not to relax guidelines in the COVID-19 pandemic is far from over. Let me repeat that again. Tuesday rejects guidance from the federal health officials who are imploring states to relax guidelines as the COVID-19 pandemic is far from over. Target, Costco, Sprouts, Whole Foods, and Walmart are among the grocery and big box stores that will continue to mandate masks inside stores. Walmart requires for customers and workers, but this has said the company won't ask employees to enforce the rule. Neanderthal thinking, as it says in that, Biden says, of ending state mask mandates in Texas, Mississippi, on and on the article goes. We had a boycott of, buy the pillows from Mike Lindell, who's standing with Trump, and the deplorables of this. We need a boycott of major companies, Target, Costco, and everybody else, if they are going to hold on to this. We are going to still keep the mask mandate in. If you're not going to enforce it, then why have the mask mandate when it's not required by health officials? The U.S. government, well, they're recommending it, but they're not requiring it. Governor Greg Abbott pulled the mask mandate and all restrictions of that. And as Dr. Kelly Victory said, Monday, mark this date. I think it's tomorrow, or it was yesterday, Wednesday, June or March 6th, 2nd, 3rd, or whatever it was. Let's look at Texas and Mississippi in a month and see how the case rate goes. See if there's a big pandemic going down. The world's falling apart. Nothing else is going right. This is where we're at. We've got to stand with those that are standing with us, starting with Trump, starting with Greg Abbott, Ron DeSantis, Kristi Noem, Trent's or something. The Mississippi governor's name escapes me. Boycott those that are making our lives a living frickin' hell. I mean, we went through the science of this. And you come back and it's all exactly stupid. Flip up number 4, please. Again, I want to run this graphic. If you allow the government to break the law because of an emergency, they will always create an emergency to break the law. Gavin Newsom just reiterated that with his ending comments to the question at his press conference today. We haven't been able to make contact with Kevin Kiley, assembly member, but he, along with James Gallagher, sued Gavin Newsom, executive orders, and won in court on the election part of it. There's more lawsuits to come. The pressure needs to build on Gavin Newsom. www.recallgavin2020.com. We got about a week or so left. We're at about 1.9 million. We need 2+ million to make sure it gets on the ballot. And we need to start with that. Because every day that blank Gavin Newsom is in office is just that much further, that much more damage he's doing. And we're going that much further down the toilet bowl. And it's going to be that much harder to recover. Or if the crash ultimately hits, it's going to be that much, the train wreck is going to be that much worse. And it's absolutely incredulous of what is happening in our society. I mean, like I said, if there's one good thing that we have coming out of this, it's that people are starting to get woke. They're not getting woke as, oh, we're going to be more Bernie Sanders-like, where I think somewhere in that lexicon the term got popularized. But they're getting woke to the reality of the situation. The teachers have had a stranglehold on our politics for far too long. I think the number is, of the 1.9 million signatures, about 400,000 or 25% are Democrats. So it's not just a bunch of straight white males, Republican nutcases, yada, 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 as you've heard the rhetoric. so many times, coming back and forth. It's starting to be a majority of the population of the state of California. And we're, in the population of that, and as Susan Shelley said and expanded on it in her column this week, as we've got to do, if this doesn't get the rest of our representatives' attention, we need to start recalling them, voting them out across the board. Like I said, we need to nationalize the recall effort of Gavin Newsom, because that's going to be a shot fired across the bow on that. And we're going, if there is a way you want to start laying the seeds to take over the House of Representatives nationally in 2022, take over the Senate in 2004, take over the presidency in 2024, you start by building that block in California. And you start by recalling Gavin Newsom. So I've said many times, there's nothing that scares a politician worse than an angry mob showing up on their doorstep at their meetings, organizing recalls, or anything. We're going to roll up. Hopefully we're going to do that. All of you, we're going to drop KMET here in about a minute or two, but I hope everybody's listening on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Stay tuned. We're going to try and hook up Kenny White and Dwayne from Idaho. Again, we haven't done one of our roundtable sessions in a long time, but we're going to see if we can put it together and do that, and maybe do some bonus coverage on the radio after this. So those of you watching on that, stay tuned. Those of you who are on KMET, if you want to pick us up, go to IE Newswire on the aforementioned Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube. Dial us up and join into then. Because it's getting down to the critical part of this. And we either got to stand up or stand down. So, on KMET, be with us in